see some people joining. I also need 2 volunteers. 1 volunteer, another one? Yeah, great, 2 people. I am going to walk out of your picture, despite the fact that you said I should be staying here. I have person 1. You were person 1, I believe? Not all at once. So I wrote something down and you just have to put a check mark at the bottom. And you can look at the other person over there to see, who's going for what option. And you're getting the same question, so no worries.
I'm missing a bit of context.
I know. And that's really the part of it. Can I go through here? Yes. I have my exercise. So you can't see this one. I have a card here and there's a question. And it's just either a check mark left or check mark right. No context. Cool. Thank you very much. You could keep it. At least some freebie, right? Let me get down there as well. What's the most difficult part about building a team? The people. Only one answer so far? Come on. It's a Wednesday, right? The manager. Communication, yeah. Trust. Someone with trust issues? Right mode communication, okay, cool. Budget, trust, motivation. I can see where budget is going to. Who said budget? Why the budget? Good people are expensive. Okay, cool. So long run, budget, passion, requirements. Yeah, some stuff going on. I'm going to the next question. So next time, be quicker. Now the question is, what's the most difficult part about actually maintaining your team? So you built a team, but now you need to maintain it. And that's a harder question, right? Building the team. A lot of people just say, I don't have enough money to pay resources. Right now it's budgeting. Communication, vision, budget again. Yes, budget is always a big problem. Companies trying to save every penny. Leadership, vision. Well, the question is, if you're building and maintaining a team, do you need leadership or is everyone part of your leadership vision? You can take multiple looks at the problem. Vision, moral. Anyone else? Something to add? Quality, budget. Okay. Cool. Keep people active. Tech disruption, moral, quality. Yeah, some interesting points. So you can put your phones away. It's quite clear what you guys are thinking. So what to think about if you're thinking about building a team? And as a consultant, I've been at many places and I've seen many teams so far. And always the problem is that single team. Sometimes it's not working. There's one person really disrupting the entire team, right? You all know that one person that can bring a team down completely by being the ignorant, selfish bastard. Sorry, YouTube. But you know, all kind of people that are really not working in the team. And you have people that are trying to be the overachiever, right? So it's really hard to say what's the reason of your team not being well. But first off, you have to start sort of at the foundation. And I'm going to talk about 2 parts. So first you're going to be like Bob the Builder and trying to get that team together, build it. And secondly, when you have built a team, you need to maintain it, right? Because, well, you put in all the effort, you have your team up and running, you constructed it, and you don't want to break down or stop somewhere along the line or have trouble, whatever. So you need to keep this flow running. And for that, I want to go back to the year 1930, 1935, and it's America, right? And in America, they had the prohibition. Nobody was allowed to drink alcohol. They invented NASCAR because, well, the cars need to go from A to B with a lot of booze in the back that was not allowed. And they were like, maybe instead of just driving booze, we could just race around, and that was NASCAR. But it's also the period of this couple. And some people know it already based on the laughter of recognition. Some people might not. But this is Bonnie and Clyde. And to summarize the story for the people that have no idea who this is, basically Bonnie, attractive girl in that period, Clyde was like, I want to make an impression on her. So basically he knocked out a grocery store owner, robbed the cashier, and then they went off and did a lot of more crimes like that, and they fell in love. And that's sort of their infamous, famous criminal love story. Do people know how it ended? Yeah, they died. They got shot with 1,100 bullets in a car. So police ambushed them, and they were like, die! And I'm going to keep it quite nice, but they were like, die! And they shot every bullet that they had at the car, and eventually they died. But I want to make sort of a different twist, right? Because it's a couple that's working great, and they didn't get killed, however, but they got arrested. And that's the situation that I want to go to. And now we have Bonnie and we have Clyde in jail, each their separate jail cell, and they cannot talk to each other. And they have sort of a choice to make that's going to either save their life or not. So what I'm going to explain is what's being called a prisoner dilemma. So right now we have Bonnie in one interrogation room and Clyde in the other. And the officers are going to ask, have you committed all these crimes? Yes or no? And based on the outcome, without knowing what the other person was going to say, they have to make a choice. And they can either choose to confess, I did it, or he did it, or whatever, or just remain silent. That's sort of the only option they have right now. And they have no idea what the other person said because they got separated. So, in summary, we have Bonnie. She can confess or remain silent. We have Clyde. He can confess or remain silent. But that sums up to basically 4 choices. So let's say Bonnie and Clyde both say, well, we didn't do it, no idea who did it. But there's still some evidence that they actually rammed the police vehicle and they got on camera doing some stuff, so they get 2 years each. If one of them said, well, the other one did it, I have no idea what's happening, only one of them had 25 years in jail, and the other one got out of jail for free, basically the Monopoly card. If they both confess, well, it's sort of okay. They get 15 years each, but then both are screwed. And that's the prisoner dilemma. So in this case, if one remains silent and the other one confesses, only one gets screwed, right? If they both confess, both are screwed. And if one remains silent and the other one as well, you have the best situation. And I asked 2 people to volunteer, and I was looking at the charts. And I just wrote down, do you want to earn a better price than your opponent? And one person said yes, and the other person said no. So we have one selfish bastard and one person that's trying to fit in. But instead of just going to give you one prize and one not, one prize for you, it's Dutch, it's called drop. And I'm going to try. Catch! Well done! So we just did the prisoner dilemma in real life. And you know, if you're going to build a great team, get that guy and not that guy. Sorry for that. But that's sort of the idea of how do people work together. Without knowing what the other is going to do, are you like trying to get the best out of it, or are you maybe a bit more trustworthy towards your other people? So you've chosen correct. But based on a few factors, you can predict what the outcome will be, or what is going to happen. And overall, you can divide people based on 3 factors of their skills. So first of all, it's the personality trait. It's like, how do you call that? Are you a team player, or are you like a soloist, or where do you fit in with your complete personality on day-to-day basis? You have your cognitive skills, how's your working memory, your attention span, are you self-aware, something like that. And then you have the social skills, and that's how well can you show your empathy, can you regulate yourself a little bit, can you tame yourself down, what's your intrinsic motivation, your extrinsic motivation, and based on that you can group those people. And in general, if you have a group of complementary traits that will outperform people and teams that are non-diversified. So if you take 3 people that have the same personality traits, the same cognitive skills, and the same social skills, they will never be better than mediocre. That's sort of what they are aiming for. But the group that's diversified, and someone is going for like being very creative, and one for very technical but not so creative, they can comprehend each other and they will achieve more, they will result more. And a great way to take a look at people and see what can work together and what doesn't, it's called the Octalysis framework. And some people might know the Octalysis framework. It's a framework originally designed for gamification. So they took a lot looks at people and did some studies looking at brains and how do they work. And they said, well, basically we can take 2 lines and make sort of a division for everyone. And you can take the left and the right part, so that's the left brain and the right brain. And you can take the front part and the back part. And then you have the white hat and the black hat, where the white hat is more the people that are trying to go towards the more acceptive side, and the black hat is more like the people that don't really fit in and want to stand out, and they don't really have the moral opinions and feelings that are accepted. So it's a bit of what do you want to achieve with this. And for example, in this one, take a look at number 8, it's avoidance. So people that are really avoiding something, they can fit in there. So the counterpart of that is epic meaning. Epic meaning says, well, if you give a person sort of an idea that they can fit in, that they can contribute to the bigger process, then you know that that person that really belongs in number 1 can help number 8 get out of that I'm trying to avoid everything and add to your product. But on the other hand, that first person with the epic meaning, if they continuously seek that I want to add something and I want to mean something and it should be important for everyone, that person of number 8 could be like, well, just get it over with and you're done, right? So it normalizes, it stabilizes your team. So it's good to have a little bit of 1, a little bit of 8, a little bit of 4, a little bit of 5, mix and match so you get a sort of balanced look inside of your team. That's really the key on making sure that everyone is on the same level, on the same page, and that they're all are working at your team goal. It's good sportsmanship to not pick up lost golf balls while they're still rolling. It's a quote by Mark Twain, and it's a really nice one. So if you really want to make the best out of your team, sometimes, yes, you need a little bit of input, and people might get lost, and they might have this idea that, okay, I have no idea how we should contribute and go next. And a different background can mean a different look at things, right? Right here we know we have every technical access to cloud systems, you name it. But people in Africa, for example, they might have learned that not everything is cloud native. And they have no idea what your cloud system is doing. So they take a different approach at systems. And you can say that for all kind of different backgrounds. You also need people from different skills. Let's just imagine you have a team of 5 people and 5 of them are back-end engineers. Then who's going to do your front end? That's something we all have been quite acquainted to, but the different backgrounds sometimes isn't still in there. You also need people from different emotional levels. Just pretend you're in a meeting, a Teams meeting, and in this Teams meeting, everyone is like monotonous, no feelings, and everyone's like, hello, yes, I did my job, goodbye. Just imagine that, everyone in that team, no extreme, impulsive, hello, how are you? What did you do your weekend? Well, I had a barbecue. And we all know we don't want to hear that. But if you think about it, if no one was mentioning something like that, it would be a very boring meeting, right? So sometimes you need people with different emotional levels and different IDs. But also achievers and dreamers, right? If everyone is like, well, I think we can do it, but nobody's actually there to try and do it, you'll never get there. But everyone's like, well, we can get there, but yeah, after that we'll see. Then you have a product that's finished, but there's no vision and no future for that. So you need to add someone that's more of a dreamer than an achiever. But only dreamers and only achievers, again, is not going to work. So it's all about finding the right balance and knowing where am I now, who do I already have, where can I fit them in, and you can build from there. And why did I choose for this golf ball? The dimples on the golf ball actually have a function. If you swing your ball, it will start spinning because of the cavities on the ball, and that will make it go further. So now, just imagine when you're starting a team, you start with this nice solid ball. If you hit it, it will not go far. But if you add dimples to it, so you take some stuff out, you add some stuff, get people in there, maybe sometimes you need to change some people on your team. It's a very hard thing to do, but sometimes it's the best for the team. But you can create that golf ball, that perfection. And those dimples, they might seem like an imperfection, but it's there to make it perfect. And the most important thing to remember is that only together a team makes a team. So you can be thinking about, oh, I want to build a team. I am going to do this, I'm going to do that. But in a team spirit, it's about us, it's about we. You're going to build something bigger than one person, so you should consider those other persons, because otherwise it's just you, and then reflected 7 times maybe. That's a bit of the problem with building a team. You're very intuitively attracted to building something around you that resembles your own opinions, your own ideas, your own judgments, because it's easy to conform to that. But you need people to not conform, and that's a problem because you need to change that mindset. I have an example here from Xavi, and it's a really great example. They paid a lot of money for like these companies that do rebrands, etc. We all know that. It's 300,000 euros and you end up with like 5 visuals. No idea why. But they did it for their working culture, and they said, well, what's our working culture? And they said, well, we really go for opportunity. We want well-being to be on top of that. We strive for success. We appreciate everyone in our company, and we try to give purpose to everything and everyone. And that's really cool. And they designed some visuals to really tell the story. But they thought about, how does my company work like, and what do I want my people to reflect? And that's important to know, because if you want to build a team that can drive your mission, you need to know what your mission is. What do you want to show? Still, in this is my well-being, and I'm going to set for sort of a work culture. And you can say, okay, my company might look different. Well, instead of opportunities, we are more like, we know what we do and we want to focus on what we're doing to improve for already existing clients. That can be something. Instead of looking for the new, doing what we know best, that might be an option. But knowing that can really help you. And there's a problem in having that team diversified and an active team. And here you can see the difference between engaging on communities and engaging on open webs. So for example, if you take a look at the open web, when people can do something, we have activities and the amount of people, you see that a lot of activities is done by not a lot of people, but a lot of activity. Yeah, it is, do you want to achieve that, right? So then again, having a lot of people with no activity, that's sort of what's happening. And then there's this key point where you get some people doing some stuff. On the other hand, if you want to engage a community, you know certain people are going to do some stuff. Most of them are doing something, and then a lot of people are not going to do anything, and then some people also not. So it's a bit of a distribution. And now it's the key point, and especially with hybrid situations, how do I find the people that fit in that curve, that want to contribute to my team, to my community that I'm trying to build, but still don't really fall out. So it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we all know that's a problem. And then we also have something to add to that, which is the community. And that's really a bummer, because if you're building a team, it's not only about getting 4 people together and build something, but you want to sort of build a community. And with community law, if you take a look at the left one, this girl, she has like dots on her sweater, and she walks by and the group is like, you're not wearing stripes, you don't belong in here. And then the next day she has a striped shirt. And we all know like, why would you do that? But based on peer pressure, we all know that a lot of people are sensitive to this. Like 20 years ago, everybody was smoking at school, right? Nowadays, you're the idiot if you're smoking, so it's changing. But then again, it's all about peer pressure. If there are 10 people smoking, and you're the 11th person in that group, then you feel a lot of pressure to do that as well. Because as human nature, we want to fit into a group. We want to cohere to the standards of that group. And if we don't have that same standard, we know that we will look like an idiot, and they're not going to like us, and they're not going to think of us at the same level. So at some point we feel this pressure to actually fit in. And that's the problem. And with that community pressure, you can ask yourself the question like, okay, but everything that we do, is that normal, right? And a great example of that is just going to ask to someone a question, what's 2 plus 1? and we all are going to say it's 3. But why is that 3? It's something that we have spoken about, we have discussed it, and we stated, well, 2 plus 1 is 3. But what if we said, like thousands of years ago, well, 2 plus 1 equals a bicycle? Something very stupid, right? But then again, if we did that 1,000 years ago and everyone said, well, yes, it's a bicycle, then nowadays we would say 2 plus 1 is a bicycle. Just think about that. So the peer pressure of community can really drive decisions and can steer you away from doing some good decisions, some bad decisions. So this also asks some peer pressure to resist. And if you really have a good idea as a team player, sometimes it's good to speak up, but it's also sometimes good to just go with the flow and maybe take it up a later time. Really look at your community, look at your pressure, and divide that. So if you want to build a team, there are sort of 3 hurdles that you need to take. And some of them were already discussed with the mentee. The first one, finding the right talent. Nowadays, finding talent, it's really hard, right? Everyone has been taken, or they're asking salaries that are off the chart. But sometimes maybe you need to invest a little more, get some trust back, and then you'll see it pays itself off. We're making a lot of money on all these IT products, and we're not living like 100 years ago where everything was cheap. So sometimes it's hard to find right talent. Maybe we need to pay a little bit more to get some people, look at different places, give people that are not yet educated and have a degree a chance as well, because why do you need a degree to program? Most people look at YouTube and tell, hey, I know how to program, and yet they program. You need to balance your skill set and roles, and that's really a problem. Like if you have 7 senior people, good luck arguing something on that, but having 4 senior people and 3 junior people will get some engagement, get some discussion in there. So really try to balance it. And you want to establish a sort of a team cohesion. And it's a bit similar as the other ones, but with team cohesion, you really want to get the team together. So it's not only about having a balance in there, but the team should really fit together. And for the next part, the part 2, it's more of the how do you maintain that team? So you know how to build a team, what can you think of, how do I sort of divide my people on what skill sets, what levels, what emotional baggage. But if you want to maintain that team, you have to put in some effort as well. And maintaining that team is probably even worse than building that team. So what I want you to do is take sort of a few steps back and imagine a backlog. And on that backlog, we can add some granularity. We have a backlog, we have some stories on there, we have something that we are doing, something that we want to do, we have something that we have done but still need to check, and something that we have done. So now instead of just thinking this as a backlog, project your team on this. So it's not about a software product, but I'm going to work on my team. I'm going to say, well, my team is actually a product, and I'm going to iterate on it, and I want to make my team better. So why can't I make sort of an approach of a software system, right? We all build in Scrum nowadays. The whole world has been Scrumming and Kanbaning and whatever. So we can do that for a team as well. So I want to say I'm going to improve my team, and I'm using my sticky notes for that. And I'm going to do that in iterations, and I'm going to expand my team's well-being. So with the backlog, we all know there's priority on there. Something has a very high priority, something has a very low priority. So just imagine 2 people on your team that are working on a project, and they sort of had an argument because one believes this route is the best way to take, and the other one says, well, no, we have to do it completely different. And you know that's being there for a long time, and it's bringing a lot of tension in your team. And we all had this situation, so why not give it some priority on a backlog? Just make a sticky note, clear the air. Have those people together in a room, have them shake hands and find something in between. Just put it on your backlog. Why not? I mean, we all know it's there, so why should we hide it? Put it in plain sight so you can actually work on it. And it's a very good approach to actually see something happening, because otherwise, well, it's going to solve itself. No, we've all been there, yes, well, at one point, they will be friends again. And we all know that one point it's someone saying, I'm out, I'm going to the competition. That's sort of how all these arguments end. So it's good to give it some visibility, put it on a backlog. And you can put a lot in there. It doesn't have to be just that person that got into an argument, but maybe just say there like, okay, organize at least 1 hour of peer programming for 2 team members. And it's very obvious, and It should be already done for most teams working together. But put it on there for visibility so that people actually know, oh shit, I haven't done that. I really need to set up a peer meeting to do something together. And it will help binding that team. Make a compliment to someone. Just put it on the backlog and everyone has to write down a compliment. Organize a team lunch. It's very basic. But still, if you put it on there, you give it priority. You make it visible. Sometimes you're trying to do a lot for your team, but your team has no idea what you're doing because they cannot see what you're actually trying to do for them. Maybe you have to fight with HR to get budget for this, but they have no idea. They just think you don't care. We're not getting a lunch, we're not getting a nice gift or whatever. Still, you're working very hard for them and they have no idea what route you're taking to surprise them a little bit. Make it visible. Just say there, let's try to organize a lunch. You don't have to say HR is being a pain in the ass and we can't do it because of them and there's no budget. Just show I'm working on it and, well, it's taking a bit of longer time than I thought. And maybe if someone has a birthday, put it on there. We're going to celebrate your birthday. Just to make it a little bit visible for everyone. Invite people to an interview for a new candidate. It's all these tiny things that can help people sort of be appreciated in the team and see that we're actually working on that team to maintain it. And you can organize that. So I can say, well, maybe the first part is like keeping people happy. The second part is more like the what can we go to do in the office. Part 3 is interviews. And you can give some categories and sort of make sprint iterations, categories, etc. Basically like the whole epic and story and bug category that you do on the backlog. Just give it some clarity. So for that story you can say, well, I'm going to work on it. I have a task level. I can make tactical steps in it. I want to, well, take it as sort of a product and have my development team actually develop on it. So instead of doing everything on my product, my team is now that product, and I want to do it for 1 or 2 sprints. Really simple, really tight, just 1 or 2 stories in there next to the backlog that you already have. Just say, go an hour to the coffee machine and have fun. It really helps. And to divide those stories up, you need to start somewhere, right? I've taken this train as an example. You can see everything sort of as a train ticket. I have a team, I have some epics under there, the user stories, the tasks. So you don't have to start big and have really self-explanatory user items on there. Just start with, what do I want to achieve? I want to have a happy team, right? What do I need to do for that? Tell a joke sometimes. So tell a joke as a task, and that can be of the user story type. I don't know, have more fun at the office, something like that. So you can split it up at multiple levels, and then you can work on it like you do with a product. And if you finally get to the to-do stage, that's where it's getting hard. It's typically the, I need you to change blue to pink. Why? I don't see what the problem is. What are you seeing? The to-do, it's something you have to plan it, right? Because, well, you can stick a lot of items on your backlog, take a look at a lot of items, but at one point you need to do it. So if you're going into your next sprint, just take a look at them and see, okay, what's actually annoying my team right now? What's bugging them? And how can I solve that problem for them? Just stick it in there. Take a look at your priority. Okay, these 3 items are really relevant right now. We're going to do that this sprint. That's really everything there is to it. And when you're actually going to work on that, that's sort of the tricky part and also the painful part. Because as a team, probably if you're going to take a look at your team building exercises as sort of a sprint product, you're going to look like a bunch of Muppets. That's sort of the summary of it. So you're going to work on those items and you have no idea what you're doing, but you're trying to achieve something, so you're happy. And well, if you're trying to do something for the first time, stuff might happen and you get shocked, quite literally sometimes, but still you have to do it. And yes, I agree, if you really start first time doing it and you look like one of those, your product owner, scrum master, or both, or some other people might look like, where is this going to? And if they really take a deep look at what your team is trying to achieve, well, they might end up laughing. But they're not getting away that easy because they also have to change. Because if we want to achieve more with a team, we have to take a look at how do we actually assess a team. And I have used my magnificent paint skills to draw up this chart. And in this I have something that I want to measure. something measurable, and I'm going to do that over time. It's very self-explanatory, and I have something that I'm measuring it at. So I am doing something in a specific time, and I want to reach a certain level. So I've drawn that line, that is my level, that's my KPI. It's the term that every manager gets happy about. But this team, let's say this is a team and they did something and they're mediocre, they're not even mediocre, they're below par, way below par. But at one point they hit that KPI, maybe like numbers of lines of code produced last month, something like that, and it spiked above the KPI. And your initial manager will say, well, that's a damn good job, you hit my KPI. But this is sort of what they're doing over time. And would you guys be happy to see this? No, right? Because there's no dynamic in there. You can't predict what's going to happen next month. So again, something measurable over time with a KPI, and this team didn't hit their KPI. Do you guys consider this as a problem, looking at this chart of what they achieved? No, right? Because I know next month they are way above KPI, and in 2, 3, 4 months I know they're growing and maybe doubling or tripling that KPI. But still, a lot of managers are going to say, this team sucks because they didn't achieve the KPI, and the first team is brilliant because they actually did. So yes, sometimes we also need to change our managers or whoever is going to take a look at your team and say, well, have you looked at how we got there? No, we didn't do it. But just compare us to that team, and we are going to achieve it in a more structured way, in a more mannered way, and we can do that every single time again. While that team, there's a bunch of clowns, they have no idea what they're doing. By success they did it, but they're not going to do it again. So we really need to take that discussion up to change how are you going to look at a team. Is it about momentum? Is it about this moment? It's about a static thing, dynamic thing. So really take up that approach of like, okay, this is what we're achieving. We know we can do it. And they really need to change with us. And when we're done with that in progress, we need to verify those results, right? So we can say we have something that we can do. And we're going to release it. We need to check on it. Did we do sufficiently on our team building? We have this backlog and we're going to check it. But what are we going to check, right? So the first time is an alpha, it's the beta release, right? With products, we do this a lot of time. But now let's say we did a sprint of 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, we tried to do a team lunch, maybe hang together after work at a bar and have some beer. And that's it, 2 jobs. Okay, so it's the first draft. An alpha release would be great. Okay, the lunch didn't go quite as planned, right? Somebody threw dinner at each other and, well, let's forget about this. But the drinks in the afternoon, they went great. So, heads up, went done. Next iteration, well, we have 3 things on the dashboard that we're going to do, and we did those, and they worked out perfectly. And you can say, well, we're going to beta, we sort of have the idea of what we're doing, and we can continue this. And that's a pretty nice one. So then you're going more to like the general release. It's an actual product release. You can do something with it. Users can interact with it, right? So people from other teams can actually go to you and say, well, you did a great job. How are you doing that? You're really showing that off. So it's really changing right now. And eventually, if you verified stuff, you hope that you can say, well, I'm done. And this is a very tricky part of the process. And we all know once we're done with a sprint, you're looping. You're going to do this over and over again. You're going to pick some stuff from the backlog, say, well, this has priority, this has no priority, I need to look into this, I need to look into that, work on it, do a verify round again. So, yes, it's an ongoing product, basically like a sprint, so you're doing it over and over again, you get up, you fall, you get up, you fall, but it's about staying in that loop and trying to be a better team. So if you really want to maintain that team after you build it and you're now trying to maintain it, retaining talent is sort of seen as the most problematic part. People want to go to the competitors, and a lot of the argument is, well, the competition was offering way more than we did. And probably we all know it's not really about getting €1,000 a year more or 2, or for driving that tiny bit bigger car, but it's about, am I being appreciated? If I did something, I don't want a raise, but I want the title of what I'm actually doing. I want to be recognized. I want to be part of something. So there's a lot to it instead of just someone saying, I'm just going by. So it's really hard. Team dynamics is also very problematic. everyone thinks, well, if you have a team, it will manage itself. But as a manager, or if someone as a team builder, you need to maintain the dynamics in there as well. So sometimes, yes, you have these people that are extravagantic and expressionistic, and sometimes you have to tame them down a little bit to give the people who don't do it by nature also a bit of a room to speak up. And that balancing, that can be tricky. And one of the most difficult things is sustaining the motivation and engagement. And it really differs from person to person, and what do you want to achieve with it. Having people motivated, that's tricky, right? We all have these moments where we get up in the morning, go to the office or to the desk at the living room or in an office at home, and you're going to sit there and think, I'm done. I'm just completely done. And that's the tricky part, because how are you going to motivate those people? There's no single answer for that. And it's really a one-person job. As a manager, you can speak to those persons. Hey, do you still enjoy everything? Can I do something for you? Do you need something from us? Do you need something from the team? And it's really about engaging on person level. And it takes a lot of time. And if you're not the person running the team and trying to build that team, you're lucky, because it's not going to cost your time, but it's going to cost a lot of time. So if you build the team, there's a lot of challenges. And if you're trying to maintain that team, there are also a lot of challenges. But you can combine them, tackle them, and really make the best out of it. And that is actually everything I had to tell for today. So you can check me out on LinkedIn. My name is Iona. I work at Rapid Circle. And this is my email if you want to contact me for something or like for the slides. Thank you very much and enjoy. And the question part, of course, if you have questions. We can all stare awkwardly, quietly here. If not, then thank you very much and goodbye.